Anyone who's 27 and who is really successful and is putting out some sort of wisdom and content, all that shit, beautiful. But guess what? You ain't got on me. You ain't got my life experience. You ain't got the time that I've lived that you haven't lived. And you can't even fast forward your life to get that. What's up, guys? Welcome to another podcast episode on the Luke Mindpower podcast. A blessing to be alive. It's a blessing to be here wherever you are, all around the world, on all these different amazing platforms, on Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and the rest of them, wherever you're tuning in, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Welcome to another podcast episode. If you're tuning in on one of my social media platforms and you don't know that you can access the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast, do yourself a favor. I get on calls with so many people, and I always ask, one thing I always ask is, how long have you been listening to my podcast, or how long have you known me for? And when people respond to me and say, I watch you on Instagram, or I watch you on Facebook, and I'm like, damn, then you don't have any idea about what's going on, because there are over 330 episodes on the Luke Mindpower podcast, which is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the rest of the podcast platforms. Even on Rumble, you can find the Luke Mindpower podcast, which is, it's a blessing to be able to actually put this content out onto all these platforms, because everyone's different. Everyone uses different social media platforms, and so as a content creator, or as an influencer, as a motivational speaker, as a life coach, as someone of myself, of putting the information and speaking and taking action and sharing my wisdom, it's up to me to put it out there. So if you're someone who's using social media and you're just posting on Apple Podcasts, or if you're just posting on Instagram, you are missing out, because there's so many people. And I know it's not easy to post everywhere, but that's why having your own business and putting your stuff out there is a big job. You know what I mean? It's a big commitment. You know what I mean? You got to be in the game. You got to be in it to win it. If you're not in there and you're not out there putting out content all over social media on all the platforms, I know sometimes it can feel daunting, or it can feel like it's just too much. But you've got to ask the question, I guess, in any situation or circumstance in your life: do you want to stay where you are, or do you want to build something for yourself? Because legitimately, that's what this beautiful life at the moment consists of, and can offer you if you choose to go down that path. If you're someone who's not living their best life, or you're not happy with what you're doing right now, and maybe you've got some sort of pain or past challenges that you haven't overcome, for example, and you've been living with it for a long time, or maybe you're just low on confidence, or you're a lot of self-doubt. For example, I had a lot of self-doubt. I didn't love myself. I had a lot of insecurities, emotional trauma, a lot of abandonment trauma, never believed in myself, right? So just to give you an example, guys, and not to mention, shout out to myself turning 40. If you're listening to this, then I've already had my birthday. But today, it actually is a couple of days before my birthday. So I'm just going to use this podcast episode to actually just share with you what I've actually achieved in terms of what I've done with my life over the last 6.5 years since I started doing this work, just so that you can appreciate what's possible for you. I think the hardest thing straight away off the bat is just thinking that it takes too long, or maybe that there's too much to learn. I was basically having a limiting belief. There was a couple of things that I can identify right now that I had limiting beliefs of. One of them was that I used to say that I could never run my own business. I could never do that. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't intelligent enough. I wasn't good enough. That was for someone else. The other thing, actually coming up with a few more, actually. The other thing I used to always believe was that confidence was something that you were born with. Crazy. I used to think that confidence was something you were born with. I didn't know that confidence was something you could build. So that's pretty amazing. And then the other thing that I used to have a limiting belief of was that my parents left me. When I first went to and traveled to Poland in 2004, that's where my parents were born. That's where my parents are from. And then I returned after a month and a half. Like 7 years prior, my dad, and listen to this as a story. It's pretty amazing, I think, anyway. And I'm digressing a little bit, but I know where I'm going with this. It's fine. Just keep listening. So my dad had a mortgage. They obviously came to Australia in the 70s or whatever it was, got married, had kids, this and that. My dad was a taxi driver. My mum worked in a school with disabled children, and she was a teacher's aide. And go figure, like my dad's working 6-7 days a week as a taxi driver, 12-hour shifts. My mum raising 4 kids, yet still going to work as a teacher's aide in a disabled school with disabled children. I guess that shows the big heart that she has to work in a place like that, right? Maybe that's a reflection of me and why I do what I do as well, you know, in helping people and being a life coach and helping people overcome their adversity or challenges or trauma. So then when my parents sold this house, I guess they paid off a mortgage or paid off the loan to the bank or whatever it was. And then maybe they didn't want a loan anymore and they just like were done with that, because my dad basically went and bought a piece of land and built it week by week. So he bought a piece of land about 2 hours away from Sydney, and he didn't want to go back to the bank to get a loan. He decided that he was going to just work as a taxi driver. He was going to, and I literally, like, this is what he did. Every single week, the money that he made, he would pay the bills, the rent, whatever it was, and the rest of the money he would use to go and buy more supplies or more things that could help him to build this house and pay these different workers or whatever, tradesmen to build the house. And it took him, I think it took him 7 years. So look, obviously when you're young, you can't, and that's why, like, when I talk to people that have young kids and shit, you know, even my nephews and my nieces, like some of them, you know, like and other people, of course, you know, I know myself, you just can't comprehend shit. You don't appreciate shit. You know what I mean? Like we're as the adults, as the parents, we're trying to like talk to these kids like they understand. Like we're trying to tell a 17-year-old to like understand life. A 19-year-old, 21-year-old, 24-year-old, like they don't get it. They don't understand shit, man. Like I think about myself when I was 24, 26, 21, 19. I didn't get shit. Like, but don't disregard or underestimate the planting of the seeds of trying to help these younger persons, even though they don't understand, right? Because no matter what you would have told me back then, I never listened. I didn't understand. I didn't get it. I was just in my own head thinking that I knew it all. So now I reflect on what my parents did and what the sacrifice, like my dad, like he was literally driving every weekend 2 hours to their house, do some work, come back on the weekend, come back to Sydney, and then go back to work for the rest of the week. You know, that's what he was doing. So that they could have a house to live in now and not have to pay a mortgage. That's pretty awesome, I think. Most of us are stuck with these debts and shit for so long, you know. So when I came back from Poland, right, 2004, this is what happened. I came back, and while I was in Poland, my parents decided to move to that new house that they were building, which wasn't even finished yet. But my dad had enough of paying rent in Sydney, and he was like, we're moving, so we don't have to pay rent. So the house wasn't even finished. So my mum basically moved into a house that was like not finished. It was incomplete. So what did I feel at that age? Like I was still young, but like the thing is, as a male, as a young teenager, I would still say I was very young. I was 20 years old or 21. I was still like, it was like I was 15. I was a little boy. And it's true. Like, I mean, in my case anyway, I'll be honest, it took me a long time to mature. You know what I mean? Like I was immature for years. And I felt it. Like all my 20s, I was like lost. Like I was just trying, you know, didn't know what was going on. So when I came back from Poland 2004, and I came back and my parents were gone. They moved. So I had a decision and I was like, well, what do I do? My mum's like, come and move here. I'm like, no, that. And so this was the limit, like the closed mindset, I don't know, just how I was raised and what I was feeling in this environment that I was living in the inner western suburbs of Sydney. It was a very multicultural society, multicultural suburbs of Lebanese and Greek people and Italian and Croatian and Serbian and like Yugoslav and Chinese and Vietnamese and like Indian and a pocket of Polish people. Well, there was a fair amount of Polish people back then. And so it was almost like this Turkish, I mean, it was almost like where we were living, like everybody wanted to have this like attachment to their culture. And so the minority was the Australian people. Like anyone who was an Aussie was looked down upon, which like doesn't really make sense because we're in Australia. Why would you pay out? Like we would pay out Australian people. You're like, it was bad to like call yourself an Aussie, an Australian back then, like when I was at school. So what did I identify as? Well, if anyone said, you know, what nasho are you? That's how we would say it. What nasho are you? I'm Polish. I would say I'm Polish. I wasn't even born in Poland. I was born in Newcastle in Australia. Born in Newcastle, born in Australia, raised in Australia, but obviously raised in a Polish household. So, and then my mum would drag us to Polish school every Saturday, Ashfield Public School to Polish school there for 4 hours. From kindergarten, I went all the way till year 10. And I remember like those days were fucked. I hated it. I hated Polish school. It was the worst. I think I'm traumatized because my mum was dragging me every Saturday. Like she was like non-negotiable, man. Like the shit that she had to put up with as us kids, like 4 of us, we didn't want to go to Polish school, but she dragged us there every Saturday to go to school. And after being at school, come on, man, Monday to Friday, we're already going to school. And now she takes us on a Saturday to go to school again. It was the worst. So I'm traumatized by that shit because I was crying every time and I hated it. I hated it. But the beautiful thing about it is that now I can speak Polish. And I'm here in Poland. I'm living in Poland. It was one of my dreams to move to Poland back in 2018. It took me 6 years to achieve that. Now I'm here. But if it wasn't for my mum fighting for us every Saturday, taking us to school, dragging us to Polish school so that we could learn, because we did speak it at home, but like, and then what it gave us is it gave us community. So it gave us, we were surrounded by all these Polish kids. So all my friends they were all Polish. So yeah, we had these pockets of like of heaps of Lebanese people and Greeks and Italians and Polish. So I had the Polish boys. And so when my mum would say, you know, come and live in Newcastle, like Newcastle in New South Wales in Australia, Newcastle was full of just people from Australia, like Australian people, Anglo-Saxon, whatever you want to call it. And the thought of that was like, no way, I'm not living with the Aussies. That. I'm not going there. You know, like that's legitimately like that's how I used to think. Because that's just how it was, you know, and it was like, it was frowned upon, you know, and then there was like, I don't know if you know the history of whatever, but there was the Cronulla riots where it was the Australians versus the ethnics. And yeah, there was a lot of that shit, you know, like it was like, you know, there was no respect for each other, you know, it was like, it was like everyone trying to stick to their own, like, you know, I'm Lebanese and I'm living in Australia, I was born in Australia, but I'm Lebanese and I'm the shit, you know, like I'm better than you. Like that's how it was, you know, and I grew up in a very, very like, I grew up on a street with the mosque on it in Lakemba, you know, so I was surrounded by Middle Eastern culture. It's funny that, part of my work and my business and my company and that is in Dubai. I live in Dubai part of the year, so I end up in the United Arab Emirates eventually, so which is a blessing. It's such a beautiful place. If you haven't been to Dubai or the United Arab Emirates or Abu Dhabi, I really highly encourage you to go and visit because it's such a peaceful, safe, beautiful, beautiful environment, thriving environment, successful environment, and the people there are absolutely amazing. You'll love it. So that was my response to my mum. I was like, nah, I'm not fucking moving to Newcastle. Fuck that. So it took me a long time. So the thing that I'm getting at right now, guys, is that for the next 10 years, I had a limiting belief that my parents left me because I had a closed mind, because I hadn't grown up yet, because I couldn't appreciate what they were doing, why they moved. I can now because it's a lot more peaceful there than it is in Sydney, because Sydney is chaos. It's the hustle. It is dense. It's populated. It's like busy. It's traffic everywhere. It's crazy, and that's, my mum always said that, she was like, I got to get out of here. It's too busy. There's too much smoke there, whatever, big city. But that was the limiting belief that I held on to for so many years, was that my parents neglected me. They left me. They didn't care about me. The other reason why I had that belief is because I was surrounded by all of my Polish boys, my friends, who had their parents' houses in Sydney and they were living with their parents. So I would look at them and go, like, I don't have that. I don't have a house that I can live in. And then I would look at their success and I would look at how they're living their life. And, some of their parents were helping them with stuff and businesses or investments and stuff. And for me, that wasn't happening. I wasn't having no help. Like, I remember asking my mum, I wanted to buy an apartment or something. I was like, would you help me buy the apartment and put the house as security so I can get an investment property? And my mum straight away said, no way, no chance, no. So, and I hope that this resonates with you guys, because I had nothing, like absolutely nothing. No handouts, no like, here you go, here's $100,000. Here we're going to help you. Here's your new car. Here's something for you. Here's this. I have nothing. If anything, for the first 10 years from 17, as soon as I got a job, I started gambling. As soon as I got money, I went to the bank and I got a loan so I could buy a car. So I was in debt, $5,000 straight away. I got a $5,000 loan. I bought a car and the car was shit. And the car broke down so many times that I was in debt $10,000 within 6 months, because I had to keep taking it to the mechanics, and the mechanic was just charging me over, and I was just eventually had to get another loan. So from 17 to 28 years old, I was in debt. I was paying the banks. So, I didn't really get taught a lot about money or about how to save money or investments or anything like that. My dad was just doing his thing, and that's it. I was left alone. So, yeah, I could sit there and go, oh, my dad should have taught me this. My mum should have taught me this. I should have been there, whatever. But I used that excuse for so many years that my parents neglected me, that other people are more successful than me because my parents left me. So there was that like feeling and pain of neglect, of like that they didn't care about me because they left, and and then I had the choice, of course, do you want to go or not? And I was like, no, I'm not going there. So these are the limiting beliefs, that held me back for many, many years. And then what else is there? I'm turning 40. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I've already turned 40. I mean, age is just a number. I'm not getting lost in that. But the one thing, that I've noticed as well is that there's a lot of people out there that are very, very successful. And I want to say this. I want you to understand this as well and see this, right? Because it's not that I'm comparing myself to anyone, because it's just the technological age. We're living in a world where everyone's different, and the one thing I know, that there's a lot of people that have so much money and they're so successful, and they're like 28, 29, 30 years old. And I mean, I started this late. I started this 6 years ago, 33. You know what I mean? Like, I was working a government job up until 33 when I decided to leave and say, I'm going to start a new life. I'm going to start something different. I'm going to follow my passion, follow my calling, find my purpose, learn to love myself, change my whole life, leave the past and move on, do something different. But right now, there's a lot of people on social media, and this is not me having a dig at anyone, because everyone's got the right to do whatever the they want, say whatever they want, whatever, man. Like, do your thing. But this is the real truth. Listen to this, right? You can be 27, and this is the thing. When I first started doing this, I connected with some people that were really smart, and they were just like 22, 23 years old. And I was like, man, how are they so smart? Like, how do they know so much? Like, when I was fucking 21, 22, 23, I didn't fucking shit. I was sleeping. I was getting pokies every week, and I was playing pokies, losing money and drinking and shitting. And I'm speaking to some of these people. They're so intelligent, you know? But one thing that I've learned is you can have all the wisdom in the world. You can be as smart as you want. You can be as rich as you want and be 27, have it all, 28, 29. But the one thing that you don't have, and this is why I really want you to listen to this. If you are 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, like wherever you are in life, the easiest thing to do for you is to just discredit yourself because you think you're too old, or you compare yourself to other people. But the one thing that I've really, really learned is that anyone who's 27 and who is really successful and is putting out some sort of wisdom and content, all that shit, yeah, beautiful. But guess what? You ain't got on me. You ain't got my life experience. You ain't got the time that I've lived that you haven't lived. And you can't even fast forward your life to get that. There's something that happens over time. You gain this wisdom, you gain the story, you gain the pain, you gain the experiences, you gain the traveling of going through life and feeling the experiences day in, day out, day in, day out. There's something else there, guys. You know what I mean? So this is just to bring to your awareness, wherever you are in your life, don't sit there and be hard on yourself if you're starting again. If you're wanting to make some changes and you want to become a better version of yourself, you want to learn to love yourself or heal your past, or you want to get out of a toxic relationship and then, you know, become a better version of yourself and then attract a better relationship into your life because you become a better version of yourself, but you're 60, don't even sit there and go, but I'm too old. No way. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. Don't even sit there and compare yourself. If you're thinking I'm 55 and I want to start my own business, that's amazing. You are starting from an extraordinary vantage point. You are at a position that people wish they had the wisdom and the experience and the life and the passion and the stuff that you've been through. People wish they had that, but they don't. They can only read about it from other people's stories and autobiographies or whatever. Like we discredit ourselves because we think, oh, you know, people are younger and they got more money or they're more successful. And like, bro, you ain't got shit on me. Like, and you can't, because through the journey of life, you build this, like, this power, the pain of your insecurities, the pain of you not being where you want to be, the pain of going in the wrong direction, the challenges that you've had to face and overcome time and time again. No one can buy that, ladies and gentlemen. That's probably one of the best gifts that you have for yourself, that other people who are in their 20s, they can't appreciate that. It's just a fact. It is the truth. And it's something that no AI, none of this technology and all this bullshit can give someone what you've been through. And I get it, you know, now with technology, I'm sure, you know, they're planting shit in their people's brains and shit like that. And it's like, man, you never know what the these robots and shit is, you know, they can turn you into someone who's lived 100 years and give you all the information or something. But anyway, but you get my point, right? You understand what I'm saying? So that's just something I've realized, you know, you just can't, like, you can't replicate your journey, your story, your life experience. And that's how I feel. I'm just like, man, you can be 29, you can be a billionaire, but you ain't got shit on me because you haven't lived my life. You haven't lived as long as I have. And you don't know what it's like to go through what I've been through. And no one knows because everyone has their own story. You know, so I think one of the biggest and best things that you can ever do in your life is to really show up and be authentic and be yourself. Because again, using social media, I see it all the time. It's really easy for you to be hard on yourself and to be afraid of like people's opinions and what people are thinking of you. And that's what mostly stops many of our dreams from actually manifesting or actually growing, because we're stopping ourselves because of the thought. It's a thought, ladies and gentlemen. The thought of what are they going to think of me, or how people are going to judge you and perceive you if you do something that's completely left field that your family's not used to seeing you do. So, but yeah, like the last 6 years, there's been a lot of things that I've had to do. And, I want to just take this time, obviously, to kind of give you as much insight into the process, because it's very easy for you to listen to what I'm talking about and for you to look at my platforms and to make a judgment of me straight away if you don't know my story, if you haven't listened to many of my episodes on my podcast. And many people do that. They might listen to one podcast and hear me mouthing off or swearing and shit, and they'll be just like, oh, this guy's a Looney Tune. Like, this guy's an idiot. What is this guy? Or look at one of my dancing videos on Instagram or TikTok and just go, oh, this guy's who's this bloke think he is? And so we're very good to judge. We're very good to make assumptions. And we do that with everyone. And if I can teach you something, I mean, what self-love has taught me, because that was really the key to unlocking my greatness. It was creating and connecting the relationship with myself, was coming home to me. My grandmother was definitely the catalyst. Many people ask, what happened, Luke? Why did you decide to change? Like all my friends, this was 2018. As soon as my grandmother passed, I had this awakening. I had this catalyst moment where I came back from the funeral and I just decided that it was time for me it was time. Like it was just time for me. And I said, I'm moving to Poland. And it didn't happen. But, 6 years later, after doing all this work on myself and building an online business and becoming a life coach and a motivational speaker and having this podcast, I was able to move to Poland 6 years later. So I guess the silver lining in this story is that your dreams, whatever your dream is, it's real. It's not about seeing the dream. You got to freaking believe it. If you don't believe it, then you won't achieve it. If you don't believe it, you can't see it. Like if you believe, you can see. Like that's the power of imagination. That's the power of having a vision. That's the power of thinking about something. Like legit, you could be in this moment right now and just go, let me think about what I want. And then what you do is you take steps, take action towards that every day. So the question would be, if let's say your dream was like mine and you had a dream to, let's say, move somewhere like wherever. Let's say you're living in Los Angeles and you had a dream to move to Hawaii. But, you want to live in a nice place and, it's not so cheap in Hawaii. So, you kind of got to get your shit in order. So if you knew that it was going to take you 6 years to get your shit together for you to actually move to Hawaii and live in a nice condo with a pool and really nice decked out place and really, really good ocean views. If you knew it was going to take you 6 years, would you stick it out? That's the question. Because of course we want to fast track it. We don't want it to we don't want it to take 6 years. But as I'm learning as well with this journey of success and who I'm becoming and where I'm going to be in 5 years' time, for example, the truth is building a business or building your success or getting you to be in a place where you're completely financially independent, you're living your best life, you're thriving. Some people probably could disagree, but from my journey and what I'm seeing and experiencing, even in family and some of my family members in their businesses and stuff like that, I can see it's a good 10 years. And you can sit there and go, man, that's a long time. But it's worth it. Like, this is what you're fighting for. You're fighting for your freedom. And time, how you use your time and what you focus on expands. And if you keep focusing on what you want, over time, you will meet your dream. You'll manifest everything that you desire. Everything in your life will work out as long as you keep going, as long as you keep taking action, as long as you keep showing up. Like the amount of shit that has happened in my life, the people that I meet, the people I attract in my life, the circumstances that are happening, my business is just growing and growing. You know, my followers don't go down. I mean, but why is it happening? It's not happening because I'm sitting around watching Netflix every day. It's happening because I keep going. I keep taking action. I keep going to the gym. I keep coaching. I keep doing events. I keep moving around. I keep getting out of my comfort zone. I keep collaborating with people. It's consistency. And like, for example, right now, guys, and, you know, if you use Rumble, if anyone is on Rumble and you don't follow me on Rumble, or you haven't subscribed to my YouTube, the Luke Mind Power podcast on Rumble, then do me a favor, give me some love and go to Rumble and follow me. Okay. But this is just an example. I just went on Rumble just before I started recording this podcast. And I actually like this because it's a great indication of where you are and then where you're going to be. So, for example, Rumble has 28 followers right now. And I like it because I'm like, that's good, because in 3 or 4 years' time, Rumble will have 100,000. And so I like to look at these numbers, you know what I mean? Because it's a good indication of like where you are. So if you're someone who is just starting their journey, or you've got 1,000 followers, or you got 500 or whatever, like, it's awesome. Like, it's such a cool thing to like see that and go, oh my gosh, like if I keep consistent, if I keep taking action, that's going to grow. You know what I mean? Like, again, what you focus on expands. And if you keep focusing on building something, on putting energy towards something that is you're passionate about, something that you want to build, it will grow. It's the same thing as a relationship. If you don't pour, if you don't communicate, if you don't give to each other, if you don't respect each other, if you don't appreciate each other, if you don't give each other space when you need space, if you don't nurture the relationship, if you don't care about the relationship, if you're not honest in the relationship, why would it grow? You know what I mean? Like, people are living in the most dysfunctional relationships nowadays, and the divorce rate is so high. Why? And I'm just heightening your awareness to this. Is everything is a reflection of you. Dysfunction is a reflection of your dysfunction. That's the reality. Your reality is a reflection of you. Why isn't there any communication in the relationship? Well, because you're not open to communicating, because you have an ego, because you're not in a place of peace, because you're not happy, because you're not in a place of unconditional love, because you don't love yourself enough. And if you don't love yourself enough, then you're not actually able to be emotionally intelligent, because you're not connected with yourself. When you're connected with yourself, you understand your emotions, your feelings, you're able to be more vulnerable, you're able to have more empathy and compassion for other people, because you have empathy and compassion for yourself. When you love yourself, you don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to disrespect anyone. You don't want to take advantage of anyone, because you would never want to take advantage of yourself. You'll never want to disrespect yourself. So this is what it is. It's like your business as well. It's like your growth as well. It's like your journey as well. It's like you got to pour. It's like you got to pour and you got to nurture it. It's like, you know, the beautiful metaphor is a garden. You know, you plant the seeds, and every day you go into your garden and you have a look at the seeds and you go, oh my gosh, where's the sun? Oh, the sun's coming out. Beautiful. I'm going to get some water. I'm going to make sure the soil's good, you know, and I'm going to keep watering the seeds so that I make sure that it grows. It's the same thing as a relationship. It's the same thing as your business. It's the same thing as your social media platforms. The same thing as anything. Like, it's the same thing as a baby. How does a baby grow? A baby grows because you give it the tit, it drinks the milk, and you love it, and you pick it up when it cries, and you nurture the shit out of the baby. You know what I mean? You rock the baby when it's whinging and shit, and when it's got a shitty nappy, and you What do you do to the baby? You pick up the baby and you put it down and you take the nappy off and you clean the shit and you get the wet wipes and the fluff and whatever that other powder is and shit, talcum powder and stuff, and you wipe the baby's ass and then you put another nappy and then you put the nappy on and the baby's good and then you rock the baby and oh, it's such a beautiful little child, right? And you love the shit out of the baby. If you love the shit out of the baby, why wouldn't you love the shit out of yourself? Take care of the baby, love the baby, love your business, love your purpose, love your future, love your relationship. Pour, just like you pour into the baby. Hell, it's not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I have developed a relationship with myself, my business. What I do is like a baby. That's my way of understanding how do I build this business that I started in 2021. I treat it like a child. A child needs attention. A child needs love. A child needs time. Yeah, I'm onto something, eh? Yeah? What do you reckon? But there's a lot of lessons along the way. There's a lot of failures, like, fuck, yeah. There's a lot of things that I've done in the last, like, 3 and a bit years since I started business that I definitely can look at as failures or regretting, shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that, wasted so much money here. But these are the trials and errors. You got to make the mistakes so that you learn from them and don't do it again. And that's the only way you learn, ladies and gentlemen. You know, don't be this perfectionist bullshit. Oh, I need to be perfect. Fuck off, man. Just like, oh, I'm going to do it when I'm ready. Being ready, do it. Like, when you feel something, this is what we do a lot. We feel guilty. We don't want to hurt other people's feelings, so we put other people first. And the one thing that happens when you learn to love yourself is you put yourself first. And that's something that I've also become very, very highly aware of, is that when I feel in my gut, when I feel like something needs to be spoken about or need to take some sort of action, I don't sit there and go, oh, I've got to be careful because I'm going to hurt their feelings. No, I'm going to be careful because I don't want to hurt my feelings. My feelings are important. I put myself first. So many of us don't have that. We're not tuning into our conscience. We're not tuning into our instincts, to our gut, to the truth, to our intuition. And we put other people first. And we think about other people's feelings and how it's going to make them feel rather than how we feel. So, I mean, where does that come from? People pleasing, you know, we don't want to lose. We want to fit in. We want to be liked. And so that's something that has definitely played a big role in my success, is putting me first. Putting me first above my family, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I left Australia as well. So I wasn't close to my family, which is kind of a shit thing to say because I love my family. I can't wait to see them. But I needed time for me. I needed to not be distracted. I needed to just be able to have my space so I could focus on my shit and not also kind of feel guilty when every time there was an invitation, oh, I can't make it because I'm business. I'd rather be on the other side of the world, happy birthday, celebrating their birthday, and not have to worry about, like, you know, oh, can't make it. I'm not in the country. So, you know, the life that I lived was more so that I created the environment for me where I was able to focus on my shit and do what I need to do to get me to where I need to be. And it was also very important for me as a man to be able to be independent and not to be reliant on, and that was the other thing that really changed my life as well, because I was really supported by my sisters and their husbands and the brother-in-laws. You know, I looked up to them, but it got to a point where, because I looked up to them so much, it was also like I was kind of under their wing, and I never felt like I had my life, I had my own back. I had to always rely on other people to, like, support me and live with them, and I wouldn't have to pay rent. And so it's all right, that's my little brother, you know what I mean? So I needed to get out of this insecure state. I needed to get out of this, like, place of, like, fear and, like, I'm not good enough and I'm just a little boy and all this kind of shit. And I needed to grow up. You know, I needed to step into my masculinity. I needed to step into my independence and be self-reliant. And And I got to tell you that when you go and you make it on your own and you do it for yourself and it's not given to you and there's no handouts, that's where your fulfillment is. And I'm very proud of that. You know, I know I've still got a lot of work to do and I've got a long way to go, but I definitely know that I've grown a lot as a person, as a man. And most importantly, I think that one of the best assets that I have now is that I'm emotionally intelligent. I'm emotionally available. I'm able to communicate my feelings. I'm not someone who suppresses shit. I express it. I open up. You know, if something bothers me or something's there, I don't just close off and go drink alcohol or snort some cocaine or, you know, I don't try to escape it. You know, I address it, even if it's uncomfortable to address. If I'm nervous or if I'm scared about addressing it, I have to let it out. I can't hold on to it. And I think that's what kills most of us, especially men, is because we internalize it. And it's like every time you don't communicate and speak your truth and share, you're suppressing that energy and it's stuck in you. And for years, we do that to ourselves. And this is where I find that I have so much peace. This is why I'm so happy, why I am so peaceful. You know, I'm very reserved. I'm very calm. And I love that about me. I mean, you see me on social media, you see me dancing, you hear me on the podcast. Sometimes I'm screaming and shit and I'm swearing and all that kind of stuff. But in the real world, like behind like all my social media platforms, guys, I am the most quietest person. But I read a quote. I was going to look at my phone, but all my phones are live on social media, on Instagram, Facebook. And there's 222 stars on Facebook right now. How amazing. On TikTok as well. But there was a quote that said something about introverted. I'm an introvert because I like to be peaceful or something. But actually around the right people, I'm an extrovert. So it's not necessarily, and I don't like to do these label stuff, you know, I don't attach myself to any labels. I was actually listening to David Goggins and he was talking about how he's got ADHD and how he's got really poor memory. Like he'll read a book and his just memory is shit. Like he just can't even recite the page, like can't even remember what he read. And when he was saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, I got the same problem. I read a page and I forget whatever I've read. So I really related to that, but the one thing I never did, because I didn't like school at all and I found it very hard to learn and stuff like that. That's why I love listening to podcasts, listening to motivational videos and stuff. That's where I learned a lot and some people are visual learners, so you want to watch videos and stuff. But that is the labels of like this dyslexia, ADHD, what was I talking about? It's coming. Wait, see what I mean? Sometimes my mind goes blank. I forget where I'm going. What was I talking about? Yeah. So anyway, it'll come to me. But yeah. So I was talking about David Goggins, and I was talking about ADHD, and I was talking about the mind and not attaching myself to any labels. And this is something that definitely has helped me. Spectrum on a spectrum. I'm introvert. Yes, Melinda. I knew. You know what? I'm watching you guys right now, but I knew if I look over here on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, someone's going to tell me what I was talking about, and they're going to remind me. I was going for the introvert shit, right? So you could easily label me as an introvert, you know. But that's just a name for someone who likes to be alone, or like, for example, I don't know if you can relate to this, but like, for example, going into church or going into places that have a lot of people. Like, for example, you're going to dinner, you're having a dinner with people and everyone's already there. And then you have to walk in by yourself. I hate that because everyone's looking, everyone's already there. And like all of a sudden you come along and then everyone's like, oh, hey, this is this person. Hello, you know, and nah. Like, I hate that shit. Same thing like going into church. I used to remember going into church and you go in after the church is started and like you're late and you have to walk in and like and you feel like everyone's looking at you. Like, I don't know what it is, but I hate it. I freaking hate it. My face goes red. I feel like, I don't know. Look at all these people on social, like everyone is highly sensitive. Yes. Fucking hell. It's not just me, guys. I'm like on Instagram, TikTok, everyone's writing the same shit. It's the worst. I hate it.